to everybody who is up early and getting a sneak peek of our pre-drive preview, I suppose you could call it. So it's just myself and Devium driving around, and we're heading towards the southern boundary to go and look for some tracks of course, leopards. We haven't seen leopards for a couple of days now, so we really need to try and have a look for them. And of course, if you're probably wondering what on earth are we doing at the moment, what this is all about, well, we wanted to show you a little bit about the behind the scenes, what we do, the preparation we do, but we were too quick on the ball today because you missed us wiping our vehicles and all those things. It's nice and cool, so we're able to move around a lot quicker. I suppose we're a little bit like the predators, is that when it is indeed very hot, we're quite sluggish and do everything very slowly. And then of course, well, when it's cooler, we're super fast. Now, there was lots of hyena activity last night. We could hear them calling all around camp. I don't know if the hyenas and the lions are having an argument, but BYRON is going to follow up this morning. I know that Taxon has already gone out quite early, rounded up his guests, so I'm sure that he is on that and looking for them. So hopefully we'll get the Nkuhumas today, and hopefully a leopard too, maybe some hyenas. These tracks are very fresh. Now, I know some of you are avid viewers, and wouldn't it be a nice thing to be able to receive a notification when the stream comes up, when the show starts, with these pre-drives, so you can start getting prepared, make your coffee. And there's one way that you can actually do that. You can subscribe to the YouTube page, and then that way, every time we start, every time we go live, well, a little notification will pop up and remind you, just in case you've forgotten about us. Lots and lots of hyena footprints. So we're going to very quickly check Triple M all the way to the end of Gowrie Main. We're going to do this very slowly, so we can see if we can find any footprints of either Tingana or Shadow or Karula and her cubs. Whoever, any leopard really. Maybe that new female that's been hanging around, the young Ingrid's Dam female. We'll have to see. Louise, what's the weather today? Let's find out what the weather is. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's lovely today. It's about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's beautiful. There's so many different animals that have been walking along this road, from elephants and buffalo and zebra and impala. They've churned up the soil quite nicely, so it should be alright to spot tracks. The soil, like I said, it's nice and soft. What is that down there? I don't have my binoculars with me today. Oh, do you have a pair? Amazing! It's probably going to be an impala, but let's have a little look in the distance. Thank you, yeah. It's not even an impala, it's dung. Lesser spotted dung of an elephant. Right? Right. A little bit, now it's getting chilly as I'm starting to drive a little bit quicker, but right, it's almost time to start that show, so I'm going to say goodbye to you, but I will see you soon.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Look at these lions we've just found, everybody. And this is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Safari Live. It's great to have you all with us, and what a wonderful surprise. Some lions first up. My name is Byron, and on camera this morning is Brian, so the B&B team back together. And on the other vehicle we have TAYLA and VM and the thumb. Sorry, Brian's thumb saying hello. And then in the FC, we've got Louise and Kirsten as always. And welcome to all our viewers. Lovely to have you with us on Safari Live this morning on our sunrise safari. And we've got these beautiful lions, a male and a female, not far from camp. They've been calling quite a lot this morning. We thought there may have been a bit of interaction and some fighting. We heard some other lions. We haven't found them just yet. But we got to find this male and female walking along, and they've come and laid down very close to the Vuyatela waterhole. And we are situated in the Greater Kruger National Park up in the northeastern part of South Africa, in an area known as Djuma Game Reserve, which is situated in the Sabi Sands. And everything we are seeing, you are seeing completely live. For those new viewers out there, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us. Please don't forget that you are able to send through questions and comments either via Twitter at #SafariLive or email us questions@WildEarthTV, and we'll gladly answer your questions for you, and we love hearing from all our viewers. It's quite a cool morning this morning. It's very overcast. It's about 20 degrees Celsius and about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So very nice, cool morning. It was wonderful to wake up and hear these lions calling very close to camp. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it did sound like there was a bit of activity, bit of interaction, perhaps between the lionesses and the males, and this male has managed to keep this lioness. It looks like he's possibly trying to mate with her or see if she is an estrus, and that's perhaps why he is following her like this. We're going to sit with them for a while, and while I do that, head over to TAYLA so she can say good morning.
Yes, and good morning it is this morning. I know, not quite as hot as what it could be, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Wow, flies are out in force here already. The little bit of rain that we seem to have had over the last few days, and I think the sheer volume of kills that these lions have been making has contributed significantly to the massive fly number increase that we seem to be having. But I couldn't think of a better way to say good morning to you. For those who are just meeting me for the first time, I'm Stef, and we have Dave on camera today. And I couldn't think of a better way than to be next to one of the giants here at Djuma. This is a giant cluster leaf tree, and by giant I mean it is possibly the largest silver cluster leaf tree that is at Djuma. I haven't seen one that is bigger than this, and I have never seen one that is larger or even similar in size to this old guy. Ancient being, I should say, is probably the better way of describing it. It's lovely, hey? What our plan is today, we are going to go south, and for no other reason than Herbie said Queen Karula has not made an appearance in the last couple of days. He thinks that she is going to come in from the south, and so we're going to go and look for some leopard tracks today and see if we can aid TAYLA and BYRON in their search for Karula. What are the chances of us finding Karula on foot? I don't know, me pretty slim. I tend to get distracted by things along the way, and But nevertheless, there's always a good chance that we hear something. Being on foot, obviously, is less of a... we disturb the bush around us less, and there's less noise from a vehicle, so it's easier to hear things like alarm calls and other animals reacting to leopard. Wow, I must be honest with you that I haven't been on a walk since last week sometime, and the difference in green is just incredible. Now, as we're going to be sending you away to BYRON in a second or two, but as you leave us, just have a look at what we're seeing over here today, and all the green fuzz that's come up.
I almost forgot that Stef was out with us this morning. Stef's out on his bushwalk. It's always great to have him back with us. Look how beautiful this male is. It's magnificent. He gave a very, very low call earlier. Maybe we're lucky because there was all that calling and vocalizing this morning. Perhaps he's trying to find out where the other males are, his brothers or the rest of the pride. So maybe we're lucky and we get a call, a roar from these lions. But usually if males are with females and are looking to mate with them, they generally try to keep quiet because they don't want to attract attention of other lions. They don't want other males coming in and potentially spoiling their opportunity to mate with the females. But let's see, you never know. And as I said, there was a lot of calling and vocalizing this morning from these lions. So maybe we're lucky and we still get one or two roars from them. So X-Ranger has just sent through a comment, and X-Ranger says it's now 50 days in a row of us seeing cats on Safari Live, big cats. So X-Ranger, I know, it's incredible. I really can't believe it, and it's I think it's 50 days of lions too. I know leopard have been seen too, but I think it's the lions, or 50 days of lions non-stop. That's incredible. It really is amazing. Male just cleaning himself now. It's very interesting. Their tongues are incredibly rough. They're actually barbed. They're slightly barbed. They've got very sharp hairs on their tongue, which cause it to be very, very rough. And they're able to clean themselves properly. Usually, if lions are at a kill, you'll often see them licking the kill to get some of the skin or hair away, and you can hear that rough tongue rubbing up against the skin of the carcass that they're feeding on. So very, very rough tongue, coarse tongue. So a great tool for grooming and cleaning themselves. So Chris Rogue has asked, do I think that were these lions perhaps fighting for mating rights? Hang on, let's see where this female goes. Maybe we're lucky and they come and drink at the waterhole. We're not far from them. So Chris, I'm not sure. It is a possibility. I just want to see where this lioness goes. Maybe reposition just so we can see them drinking nicely. It does look like they want to. I'm going to reverse quickly. I think she may go and drink just off to our left. We'll get her from the other side. Hang on. Oh. She's not too happy with him. Oh, she's not interested in drinking, all right. So, Chris, I'm not too sure. Possibly, I think maybe these lionesses or these males try to split one or two of the lionesses away. Maybe the males were getting a bit aggressive with each other because they are trying to mate. It is a possibility. I don't think there were other lions in the area. I think this was just the Nkuhuma pride with these Birmingham males. So it is a possibility that there's perhaps just a bit of interaction between the males, even though they are part of a coalition and they do stick together. There is still a lot of competition between these males for mating rights and for dominance. There is still a hierarchy within a coalition. Even if they are brothers, one will be more dominant than the other. So I'm not too sure what happened this morning. Perhaps they heard lions in the distance and they were calling basically to warn other lions that this is their territory and they mustn't come closer. I know we do get the Styx pride. Have a look at that male quickly. Just it was interesting behavior. I'll explain that shortly. So as I was saying, we do have the Styx pride which cross over occasionally. Maybe they heard one another. Don't think they came into contact, but there was definitely a lot of vocalizing this morning. So possibly these males just having a little bit of a standoff, and this one got to follow this female for a while. Getting back to that interaction that the male was doing, let's see if he does it again. It's known as Flemen Grimace, and he was standing where that lioness was, just watching that male. He's very focused. He's definitely picking up the scent on the other lions. So what may also have happened, and again, because we didn't see, I can only assume or guess, and the way he's smelling over there, perhaps the rest of the pride were in this area this morning. They were, oh, there we go, he's doing that Flemen Grimace. You see that? Wonderful. So that is basically what he's doing here, is tasting or picking up the scent of the urine of other lions that were in the area. He's probably licking a spot there where they urinated, and the reason they do that is they have a Jacobson's organ. Have a look, he's doing it again. They've got a Jacobson's organ which is situated at the back of their palate, the roof of the mouth. And what that is it's an additional sense organ. So with these lions tasting the urine, and not just lions do it, other animals do it too, they put the urine or that scent on that organ, on that Jacobson's organ, and it allows them to tell whether or not females are in estrus. It's an easier way for them to recognize perhaps the lions within their pride and the other males around. So it's an incredible sense organ, and that behavior that male was doing now is phlegm, and there he's doing it again. See that? He's pushing the scent onto his palate, onto that Jacobson's organ. That is wonderful. It looks like he's smiling or snarling, and that is known as the Flemen Grimace. Very interesting to see. I know a lot of the other viewers did hear the rest of the lions this morning, so there was definitely a pride around here. Perhaps this male and female weren't with the pride when they were calling. Maybe the rest of the pride with one of the other males, they were around here, and that sound attracted these lions into the area, and the rest of the pride have possibly moved off, and I think that's why these lions are now picking up on the scent of these lions. They're possibly urinating. So the female's also doing it. She also does it. Probably picking up on the scent of the lionesses from her pride, from the Nkuhuma pride. So this is wonderful, a wonderful behavior, and it's great to see lions doing that. We're going to stick with them for a while and see what they get up to. Maybe they meet up with the rest of the pride later. While we do that, now you can go across to TAYLA and see what she's up to.
Good morning and welcome to a very cloudy sunrise safari. Of course, my name is TAYLA and on camera with me we've got VM. Now, we are at the moment patrolling the southern boundary of Djuma, just having a look around to see if we can pick up on any leopard tracks that have hopefully crossed back into our traverse. So I've been taking this road very easy for the last few minutes now, making sure that I try not to miss any tracks, of course. And there's lots and lots of hyena footprints going up and down the road. There's been lots of elephant tracks and buffalo and all sorts of other goodies. So it was really busy last night, perhaps with the cooler weather around. Everybody's sort of making use of it and traveling a little bit further than what they would be in the heat. Now, I'm also checking these marula trees as we drive along, so I'm trying to do a lot of multitasking here, because we know how the leopards just love to sit in the marula trees. They do, of course, have the most perfect branches, but nothing just yet. Oh, hang on, I actually have something to show you, seeing as though we have some marulas. Yes, well, don't we all just love Jiggy's squeaky brakes? And we have to look at my box of tricks. Where are you? Aha, found ya. Remember the other morning, I think it was, or afternoon, that I said that I found a little marula fruit? Well, I did. Look at it over here. Now, it's not very ripe. Oh, I'll just leave it there. You can see it's a little bit bruised. And of course, this is a tiny marula fruit. I mean, it's really, really small. I'll give you my... Sorry, I'm covering the screen, but I want to put my pen here. Look at that. Look how small it is. Now, these marula fruits will probably get 3 or 4 times that size before they become ripe. And then they will drop off of the tree. And then that is then where they start to ripen. And they are so delicious. There's quite a big seed in here. Should we see if we can open it? Let's see if we can actually open it so I can show you what the seed looks like. Right, which knife are we going to use today? I'll try not to cut myself. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Look at this. Look how soft the seed is still. Don't you think it almost looks like a jalapeno inside? Now, typically, we're never really able to do that. What I will do is I shall show you a older marula seed, if I can find one, if the squirrels haven't taken them all, and then we'll have a look. But there's not much flesh on this fruit, I'm afraid. The seed is normally covered by a little bit of a fleshy thing, and the idea behind it is to sort of just take a little bit of the top off and you push. No, it's not working, but normally it's so full of liquid and a little bit, it's quite sort of slippery, I suppose, and then you squish it out like that and you put the whole pip, the seed, into your mouth. And you chew it around and you just pull off a little bit of flesh, and it's really nice. But that was quite pretty. I didn't think it was going to look like that. I'm hearing lots of birds in the distance, but unfortunately nothing alarm calling just yet. Everyone's just waking up. Well, let's carry on for our search. Right, we're going to continue looking for any of the leopards that have hopefully come across, and then we might possibly pop into Arathusa. We shall see how the day progresses, but let's go back across to Stef, who I'm sure is happy to be back out on foot again.
You know, it's not only marula fruit that we're looking forward to in the summer, it's also all the multitude of insects that are starting to hatch and come about. And there's one here that we found. Look at this little guy. Coming to say hello. This is a grasshopper that is obviously camouflaged to look like stalks of grass, but he was injured slightly. Last night something had a go at him and took off a wing and a back leg, and it gives us a pretty unique look at the inside of that flash coloration that these locusts use to disorientate predators. So that red that you see there is part of a flash display. As soon as the wings pop open, that red and the white body underneath give a very harsh contrast to the coloration on the other side, to that grass-like or leaf, that blade-like, the grass blade-like camouflage, and that disorientates a predator and will sometimes cause it, or let the predator move on, especially as you can see now when the grasshopper stays dead still. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this grasshopper where we found him, back in this grass here, and have a look at how he disappears. Now I'm going to be putting a piece of grass there for you. Here's the grasshopper here. So camouflaged, I think even David at the moment is lost. Let me stand up so you can get around the grass, Davey. Come with us around the grass over here and have a look at exactly how camouflaged this grasshopper is. There he is, and I'm going to show you a female now as well. I've just only noticed her for the first time. So that's him, and this is her. Can you see that at the end of the stick there? That is a grasshopper.
Oh wow.
David's just gone, oh wow. Have a look at that. Let me uncover her. Here she is right here. There's the full length of her. You can see a relatively big grasshopper. There's my finger next to her. Have a look at that. There she is there. I think, let's get some of this grass out of the way for you. Isn't that amazing? Two grasshoppers, completely different, same kind of grasshopper, this being the male and this being the female, and colored completely different. This male's colored like green grass leaves basically, or the blades of the grass, and this one down here colored like the dead leaf stalks of the grass. Oh, just amazing. Wouldn't even know that they were there. Eh? That is why I like the growing season out here. It's just, there's just something almost on every single bush, on every single termite mound. And from here we've actually got this dwarf boer bean flowering, beautiful flowers this morning, lovely colored display. These dwarf boer beans like to grow over here and in the Sabi sands. And quite often you find them associated with wettish areas, so on the sides of drainage lines. Now what we do have here, and what is why we came here in the first place, is I wanted to see if this natural pan, this is a natural wallow, a natural pan, filled up at all with the rain that we had here a couple of nights ago. And as you can see, it absolutely has. Isn't that amazing? This is naturally occurring, so we haven't made this pan at all. This pan wasn't scraped. It's not here because of runoff from anything that humans have done. This pan, for all we know, has been here and in existence and have been used by animals for the last couple of thousand years. It is in a drainage line, but the actual drainage line itself, the actual riverbed itself, runs there through the trees there, past that old jackleberry, and then all the way through there. This here is a side chute. It's almost like a type of oxbow lake, if I were to say it. It's an offshoot of the main channel and would flow only in times of a lot of rain. But you can see that it does actually hold a lot of water. You can imagine if this was full, it would probably extend. I would say that it would be about this deep, where I'm standing now, at the edge of where these plants grow, all the way here and extend all the way around. You can see where there's very little vegetation. Those trees would mark the edge of this particular pan. Huge wallow. And quite nice. Something to remember actually while we are walking around here in the bush looking for anything spectacular wherever we can. Now I'm going to be sticking my head into some more bushes for you over the next couple of minutes. We should pull something out over here that's interesting, hairy or scary or otherwise. And in the meantime we're going to send you over to Taylor, who's got a buffalo.
Well, there seems to be, it's not a particularly big herd, but bigger than what we have been seeing over the last few days. There must be about 50 of here. Most of them, of these buffalo, have already moved off into the bushes. But we've got a couple still coming out and crossing the road. You can see that buffalo in the middle is quite thin. Hips exposed, ribs exposed. Now this is what we're going to start to see again as all the grass disappears. And I think that they are hoping that that grass is going to grow super quickly after the rain that we had. Those two don't look too bad. They look alright and plump. And that's what happens. Here's another one that looks, that youngster didn't look as fit as the others. And this is of course the case of will the fittest and the strongest buffalo survive. We saw quite a few buffalo unfortunately succumbing to the harsh conditions a couple of months ago. And then of course we had that lovely downpour of rain in September which helped them out and they got fat again. And now we're seeing the cycle come through for a second time and taking a couple of buffalo out. Those two walking together. Those two don't look too bad. Majority of the buffalo though are looking quite good. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we experienced the end of last year, the beginning of this year. Sort of January and February where we were at our worst. It was so hot and so dry, no rain for months. It was really, really harsh conditions. And I was chatting to Herbert today. I said, Herbert, when are we going to get some rain? And he just shook his head. He said he doesn't know what's going on with the weather. So I'm glad it's not just us that's confused. But like I said, we're going to see these buffalo now moving away from the open areas and just continuously moving along and back towards the drainage lines where we've been driving along them. You've seen how lush it is and it's good. And I have seen the buffalo starting to browse again, which is understandable for them. But we need to carry on. I want to very quickly finish my little patrol all the way to Cheetah cut line just to have a look and see if we can pick up on any leopard tracks. So far we haven't had anything just yet. But we will continue looking. Right, I know that you're probably sitting there itching, waiting to get back to the Nkuhumas. Well, let's not wait any longer.
Now we're still sitting with these lions. They've moved a little bit away from the waterhole, out into the clearing. What a wonderful, wonderful sighting, and great to spend some time with them. Just want to radio TAYLA quickly. I just want to give her an update I heard while she was chatting to you. Let's wait for some of the other guys to stop chatting on the radio. And watch that female just cleaning herself. See, in the mornings there's a lot of this activity, cleaning. They've probably been walking around, bit of moisture on the grass and that, so they do try and clean themselves a little bit. She's beautiful. TAYLA for BYRON. Sounds like there's another lion on the vehicle. It's it's Brian's stomach this morning. I think perhaps he's a bit hungry. Let's see where this female is going. They might head back up to those clearings towards quarantine. They did come down from there. When we first found them, they'd walked through from there. But let's see, and I think this male will possibly get up and follow this female soon. I don't think he will want to let her out of his sight too much. Let's see. He's still just watching her very intently, but I think he may get up soon. There we go. And he's up. We'll follow them a bit and see where they go. It's great. It's wonderful to find lions early in the morning like this while they're still active, while they're moving around. We'll start. Let's follow them for a while. Isn't this great? Amazing. It's so wonderful to spend time with lions like this. And this male is in good condition. He's a beautiful male. You know, the other Birmingham male we've been seeing recently is the one that's got that very bad scar on his face. Not exactly sure how he got it. Maybe a fight with his brother, or from one of the other lionesses, maybe a claw, and caused the infection. I know you did see how badly it was infected. It looks like it's getting a bit better, and these animals have the amazing ability to heal very, very quickly. TAYLA for BYRON. Oh, look at this. You can actually see, if you look at his mane underneath, you can see it is a little bit wet there. And that's probably from the moisture around. Copy. TAYLA, Mike has got an update for you. Just get hold of Mike around Cheetah Cutline. Can see he's got a bit of a scar on his shoulder too, just over there. Can you see that? Not sure if it's a scar or if it's from a parasite. It looks like potentially a little scratch or scar. And you could see in his face too, these males, all of them, because there's constantly competition, they do fight and scratch each other quite badly. So Melinda's asked us a question: what is the life expectancy of a lion? So Melinda, with males and big males like this who are dominant in an area, they do compete a lot with other lions. So generally their life expectancy is about 10 to 12 years, depending. With these big males, in a coalition like we have with this Birmingham Pride, or Birmingham males, they'll probably live a little bit longer because they'll be able to be more successful. They can keep out other competition, so the chances of them fighting with other males are a lot less. But generally males 10 to 12 years, and females probably around 14 to 15 years, and those are averages. You may get them occasionally living a little bit longer, but on average 10 to 12 for males and about 14 to 15 years for females, so a bit longer. Lioness just lying under the trees there. She looks like she's crawling through a little bit. Not sure. She's probably just chewing on some grass. Lions do that occasionally. Maybe help with digestion. Speaking about the grass, I know Stef was appreciating all the green grass around at the moment. Let's see what he's up to on the bushwalk.
You know, you'd think with all the food that these lions are having to eat, that eating grass wouldn't be necessary this time of the year, but nonetheless we have grass-eating lions. We also have leaf-like locusts. What you're looking at over there is a crested locust, a male crested locust, which I'll go into in a second, which is almost exactly the same, I would say exactly the same shade red as the dead leaves of this round leaf bloodwood. Now, what has just astounded me between the sighting we just had before this with those grass-like locusts and this leaf-like locust is just their ability to mimic the colors that are around at the moment. And I know with some insects, they are able to change their coloration as the seasons progress, depending on where they find themselves at that particular time. And I'm wondering if this particular locust hasn't done exactly that. It would, you know, it would seem they can. Now I know Honey's ocelot has remarked exactly the same thing, that they seem to be able to change colour. Now I'm going to see if I can catch this little guy. There we go. Let's put him up here for closer inspection. This is a crested locust. Because of the crest on top of the head there, you can see that quite sharp ridge. And I know it's a male because of the fact that he has such large wings. You can see the wings over here, the wings that are spread out over the back like this. Female crested locusts get so large that they don't actually fly. They actually lose the ability to fly, and what they do is they go and sing or rub their legs together and stridulate a sound, and release a pheromone, and that attracts the males, which come flying in from all over the place. But just have a look at that coloration on the head and on the eye. Isn't that just unbelievable? Looking identical to a leaf. Now I'm going to bend down in a bit. It's going to be quite jarring. What I want to try and do here is give you an idea. This is a leaf from the round leaf bloodwood. Let's go right up tight on that leaf over there and have a look at that coloration. Now have a look at that. I think even the patterns are similar. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Now, David, all the way from Napa, I can't agree with you more. The fact that these insects can mimic not only the exact shade, but it looks like not quite texture, but at least the patterns on these things is just incredible. I'm going to put this little guy down in this leaf litter, and from eye level I'm going to show you how difficult it was to actually spot him. Now, why are they so cryptically colored? The reason for that is that in nature, if you move, you attract attention to yourself, and so quite often the best way to stay safe is simply to just disappear. Now I'm going to put that locust down. Hopefully he doesn't jump away in terror straight away. No, there he goes. But he's jumped straight onto another leaf. I'm going to point him out to you at the end of this stick. There. Let me point him out again. Right there. Got it. Amazing, hey? Literally just disappeared before our very eyes. All right, we've got them coming out of the woodwork today. We're going to send you from this fantastic male crested locust over to a millipede with TAYLA.
Now we are looking at one of the oldest known land animals, really. Of course, the millipede. Now, they first appeared in the Silurian period, which was many, many millions of years ago. And can you believe that the ancestors of this millipede used to reach lengths of about 2 meters? Now, of course, unfortunately, the largest millipede is the the giant African millipede, and unfortunately they don't get as big as 2 meters. They sort of get the length of about a ruler, possibly a little bit longer than that. But isn't it amazing how you can see all those little legs working now as it goes about on its day, looking for something to eat? Oh, is that a nice leaf? Just testing it to see. No, doesn't pass quality control. Off to the next one. And these creatures are amazing, the way that they move around. Now, they also have mites living on them. I think it's amazing how all these different insects have little parasites and insects of their own living on top of them and in between the legs. But they are so small, they're very difficult to see just with the naked eye. That's where the microscope is quite handy. Going over some lichen. And not even bothered with us at all. VM actually spotted this. It was very well spotted. Now you can hear the go-away birds alarming. You obviously heard them. Now, I have got a surprise for you. Now, they've stopped calling now, and the reason why they're shouting like that is indeed because Tingana is sitting in the drainage below me, but at the moment, none of us can see him. So we're waiting patiently for him to come out, and we'll just sit here until he does decide to show face. He's right in the drainage there. Well done to Mike, who found him. But unfortunately, it's almost impossible to see him. Right, but what we're going to do is we're going to hang tight, and as soon as Tingana decides to show his face, well, then, of course, we'll show him to you. But let's go back across to BYRON with the ever lovely Nkuhuma.
We're still following these lions. They're moving around a bit. The lioness is actually moving around, and the male is just following her. He doesn't want her to get out of his sight. Look how quickly he's moving there. Let's just see where they are going. Don't want to lose them either. It's exciting that TAYLA's potentially got Tingana, that big male leopard, around. So I'm sure when she does see him, she'll let us know. I know he did have a kill just to the east of our boundary for a few days, and that's why we probably didn't see too many leopards around, because they're all feeding on something. This is interesting. These lions are walking right towards camp. Could be interesting if there's someone walking around. Christina has asked a question, and I'm just going to try to drive around here quickly to keep up with them, get onto the road. Christina has asked, do the lionesses ever follow the males like the males follow the lionesses? Not really, Christina, to be honest. Let's watch. I'm just going to try. Brian. Yeah. And they've walked right past camp. Let's just see. So Christina, no, I've never seen. Oh, hang on. They're walking right down towards our camp too, which is interesting. I've never seen lionesses follow the males like this. It's usually the males that follow the females, and mainly because the males are the ones that want to mate with the females. Let's just see. The male's probably going to cross in front of us soon. There he goes. Look at that. Look at that. Drive around here quickly. Hold on. So Christina, as I was saying, I've not seen lionesses follow males like this. Oh, look here. This is interesting. There's some waterbuck and bushbuck straight ahead. And the bushbuck just ran off. There goes the waterbuck. I'm just trying to see where they've gone. Just lost them briefly. It's very thick through here and between the two camps. I'm just going to drive down here. This is actually the access to one of the lodges to WildEarthTV. Let's just see if we can work out exactly which direction they're going before we lose them, because we won't be able to follow them through here or through the camps. They obviously know this territory a lot better than we do. They know exactly where they can and cannot walk. Okay, there's the lioness and the male just through there. I wonder where they're going to go. You know what? I think I might have an idea. While I try to stay with these lions, TAYLA's got that male leopard for you.
Well, we don't have him right now. He's got up and he started moving. So we're going to have to try and head around again. We're going to do some off-roading, lots of off-roading. Now we need to be careful here because there's lots of plants that are very slow growing. Open for us. Now you can hear that the birds are not happy with him at all. The drongo is shouting. But he is a beautiful boy. Full belly by the looks of it. We got a bit of a limp? No, I think he just stood on something. But isn't he a lovely cat? Now we're going to try and stick with him, of course. But we know what leopards are like. They like to move along the drainage lines, which can be quite difficult. And like I said, we need to be careful with the route that we pick. But let's not get too far behind him. And also we've got the issue of him. If he crosses over that drainage line again, we need to try and find a spot to follow him. But it seems as though there's a few vehicles here. So hopefully what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to play leapfrog, and that may help us a little bit. Hey boy. There he is. Pausing for just a moment before, of course, he carries on. Now it's going to get very, very thick here. He said he's got a big fat belly at the moment. And I'm hoping what's going to happen is he's going to find a nice, perhaps a tree or somewhere to rest. Because we're going to get ourselves into some trouble if he disappears down into this part. There's lots of tamboti around. Okay, well, let's try. And let's see. Wait, please go the other side. I actually am hoping that he crosses the drainage and perhaps goes towards the open. Let's just sit, because he seems to also be a little bit uncertain of his plans today. You can just see him there, just see his spots. Now see how he's turning, he's going back the other way. Looks like he's going to cross. Let's have a look. Yep, going through the drainage. No, now he's walking in the drainage. Now that's a good place to walk for a leopard. It's nice and soft, so they almost walk completely silently. Maybe he's going to go off and do a little bit of a territorial patrol. And that's sort of why he's on the indecisive at the most. Indecisive. Sorry. My goodness. My words today are just not coming out. But you can just see him there. He's stopped and he's paused for a moment. Maybe he's smelling something. It's quite difficult to see. Right, but as we lose him through this drainage, we're going to try and get another view of him. Let's go back across to Stef.
Today seems the day of the locust, there's no doubt. Have a look at that sand grain that is busy moving over there. That is a locust, one of the stone or sand locusts. And just have a look at that coloration. This is a bare patch of sand. And this locust is virtually invisible on this bare patch of sand. There you go, you can see him moving. You got him, Dave? Yeah. Just have a look at that. How does something get that camouflaged? That is unbelievable. Joined by another one just in front of him, a yellow one. Yeah. Now, Mary-Ann, you've just asked a question all the way out of Arkansas where you want to know what's the difference between a grasshopper and a locust. Mary-Ann, essentially they're the same thing. Locusts tend to swarm and be a little bit bigger. Grasshoppers tend to be solitary and on their own. So this could technically be called a grasshopper, although grasshoppers and locusts are the same thing. It's just that it's a term used for grasshoppers that are much larger generally, and also that swarm. These don't swarm. This is a stone locust or stone grasshopper. And then what actually got us down at this level, where we managed to find this unbelievable creature, is this dung pile that we're at. We came looking for some wildebeest, and have a look at this copper dung beetle that is on this pile of dung right here. Isn't that unbelievable? He's busy doing his dung ball. At the moment it's just that tiny round piece of dung that his back legs are standing on. That's his dung ball. He seems to lose interest every now and again. But just have a look at those colors, that coppery color, the red on the back feet, green. And he changes colour as well. Where are you going? You've now left your dung ball. Easier, easier. Now James, you've asked me if there's any insects capable of regenerating lost limbs. I'm just trying to think, James, to be quite honest. I know lizards, octopus, limbs. Do spiders regenerate lost limbs? I don't know if when they molt they may have another limb. I doubt it though, James. I'm just trying to think. That's got me stumped this morning, you know. I don't actually know of an insect that could regenerate a limb. You're welcome to help me out there, James, if you want, or anybody else that's busy watching and has an interest in helping us out to that question. So the question is, do insects regenerate limbs similar to an octopus, or how a lizard would regrow its tail that it's shed? And you're welcome to send those answers through to questions@WildEarthTV via email, or using the hashtag Safari Live, and I'll share it if we get any answers, at least anyway. I'll share it with everybody, as many as we can, before the end of the show or this afternoon. But just in this bare patch of sand, I mean, if you have a look, this piece of sand we're lying in is pretty similar to every other piece of sand that we've got at the moment. Only right here we've got that little locust. Oh, had that little locust. Here he is back again. He's got quite good eyesight, I must be honest with you. He's come down to the end of the stick. Here he's standing at the end of the stick, looking exactly like a piece of... he's busy camouflaging himself behind a mountain, relatively speaking. There he is at the end of the stick there, Dave. Amazing, eh? Now, can you imagine if leopard could dress themselves up in bits and pieces of the bush they're walking around in? How camouflaged and terrifying they would be. Obviously, this locust lives on patches of vegetation where no other locust can, and that would be in these sparsely grassed areas. And because he lives and utilizes this specific niche that other locusts can't, he needs to be that camouflaged so that predators who are relying on their sight to see movement don't find him. So what this grasshopper will do, invariably use that very good eyesight to jump into a new patch of sand and stay dead still, and therefore avoid detection. But I would imagine that they do exactly the same thing to get to new food sources, is they jump into an area where there's some grass, and would then stay very still and eat that grass, avoiding detection from any aerial predators that way. So I would imagine that they live here all the time, that they live, you'd find lots of these types of grasshoppers living in this particular area. I would imagine that if we start looking around here, we probably find a whole lot more than just this one, and probably a whole lot more colors as well. Just unbelievable. He's here again at the end of this. Now, James, you've asked me if we get locust swarms in South Africa. We absolutely do. For locusts to swarm, though, there needs to be a specific set of conditions that sort of need to happen in sequence. So we do get these swarms of locusts from time to time. You know, every year out here, something new is in abundance. And sometimes it's locusts, and sometimes it's flies, and sometimes it's these tiny little beetles, and at other times it's you know, spiders. We're just waiting in anticipation of what it's going to be this year. Last year's summer was characterized by just massive amounts.
So there's a lot happening this morning. I'm trying to see where this male and female lion have gone to. We have lost them. They've given us a slip. They walked straight between the two camps. They literally walked behind the DRC where we stay. If James was here, he would have had a wonderful view of them from his window. but I'm not sure where they've gone now. We're trying to drive around and have a look. It's very thick, and for us to get through, we've had to take a road right around. But it's too soon to panic, as I always say. Let's just keep a good look out for them. Still a lovely cool morning, which is great. So they're probably going to move around for a little bit longer until it starts warming up, but I do think today is possibly going to get fairly hot again. I think this cloud cover may burn off as the sun gets a little bit higher. Let's just have a look here. It's amazing how these animals can just disappear just as quickly as we found them. This is going back around towards the front of TAYLA camp. No sign just yet. What was that? Squirrel. Tricky at times working out, and we can never be 100% certain which direction these animals move in. I mean, you can get an idea, and we thought they'd go behind the DRC where we stay, and we drove there and we saw them. We saw as they came through, they walked right behind us, and then they moved through a dense thicket. We obviously couldn't drive there between the two camps, and now they've just disappeared. But we may find them again, as these lions are walking a little bit and then they'd lay down again, so they may do that. So I've just got a question. So I couldn't copy that name properly, but the question was, is the entrance to the camp open all the time? That's Light, I believe. Light sent us the question. Light, yes. Our gate is open all day, so if the lions really wanted to, they could walk straight in. Any animal can. But generally these animals, they can pick up the smell of the people and the noise, so they'll try and avoid that area. They won't necessarily just wander in there during the day. At night, it's possibly a different story. And then they may walk through, and we've had lions and leopards and that walking through the camps regularly, even buffalo. So we do have to be careful at night. But during the day, it's unlikely that they'd wander through. It has happened though. I'm not saying it won't happen. In the lodge that I used to work at, we had lions walk through before during the day, in the mornings, but it happens very, very seldom. Just having a good look around here to see where these lions have gone. And I really love when this happens, because it just shows you how quickly these animals can disappear if they want. And it just always, and I always tell my guests, it just shows you how privileged we are when we do get to see them and we do get to spend time with them. Because if these animals didn't want us to see them, we wouldn't have a chance at all. They can disappear so quickly. But let's see, they may be just around the corner somewhere here. Oh, there's some, looks like some Inyala and bushbuck around here. Inyala and Impala, so I doubt these lions have walked through here. They look very relaxed. We're going to continue our search though. We're not going to give up just yet. While I do that, Stef has got some more little interesting insects for you.
Welcome back to the bushwalk, and sorry for dropping you away just now so suddenly. You know, it is a very difficult thing, a very fine thing getting this show to you from the middle of nowhere, and particularly when we're on foot. So thank you very much for your patience, but what we have in picture there for you is something that we see often but very rarely witness, and that is the building of a termite mound. You're looking at some termites, worker castes, which are using bits and pieces of mud, cellulose, undigested wood and their own saliva to grain for grain increase the wall height of their termite mound. This is a fairly new colony, it looks like. The mound is tiny, barely a finger's width. Alright, we've got some action happening with some lions. We'll catch up with you in a bit.
We've just found them, everyone. Just where I said these impala and the Inyala are. And the lioness, see the Inyala just off to my right. And the lioness is stalking. She's lying flat against the bushes, against the thicket line. And there's Inyala walking towards them. This could get very exciting, everyone. Look how close they are. The Inyala's just over here. And they still haven't seen the lions. I've kept my distance a little bit. I don't want to disturb them. Let's see what happens. Oh, this Inyala's walking straight towards him. Wow, this is exciting, everyone. This is so exciting. But you see what the lioness is doing? She's hoping that they walk a little bit closer so she can ambush them. It's not like she's really well hidden. She may decide to burst out of there if they turn their backs or if they carry on walking away from her. Let's see what happens. I think one of the Nyalas just spotted the lioness. Let's see. I just saw her lift her head very quickly. We may get an alarm call. Let's see what happens. Also, these Inyala are just in quite a dense little area. Do you see that lioness would have to break her cover? Oh wow, look, 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 watch the lioness. There's a little baby Inyala right next to her. Watch us, watch us. Oh, it's just too slow. I don't think she actually saw that little Inyala. Wow, that was lucky. That was so lucky. See, she was focused on the adults. She didn't see that baby Inyala come out the bush right next to her, very, very close to her. It's almost like she got a bit of a fright before she actually went for it. Gee, that was close. Amazing. That was really amazing. And you see she had to clear some branches and stumps over there. So that's why she couldn't really break into full speed. It was a bit tricky for her. But how incredibly still was she lying? I'm surprised that they didn't actually see her there. But such a pity. I mean, that little Inyala is very, very lucky. It came out and that lioness was completely fixated on the adults. and just didn't see that baby Nyala. So that was very close, but very lucky for the Nyala. Wow, that was exciting. But that little Nyala would have been a quick snack for these two lions. They probably would have finished that within 20 minutes or so. It was not a very big Nyala at all. Still a small baby. See, they're just carrying on moving through this thick bush at the moment. A lot of tree stumps and that around. We wouldn't be able to follow them through there, but the road does bend. And we may get them coming through on the other side again. It's just going to have a good look and see which direction they go. So while they're walking through here, the whole time they're looking around, is there any potential prey that they may try and catch. But what I find so interesting is that those Nyala didn't alarm call. Excuse me, sorry. Those Nyala didn't alarm call. They literally got a fright, saw the lion come out, and they just ran. I think purely because they didn't have time to alarm call. So there was no chance of giving that bark, which the Nyala do give. It was just we need to get out of here, let's run. And off they went. So interesting behavior, very interesting. But that was amazing, that was very exciting, wow. Alright, so they're moving through this thick area again. I'm going to try head around and see if we can't follow them a little bit longer. While I do, let's head back to Stef and see what he's got.
How lucky are we today with the sightings we've been having? I mean, just incredible. And another amazing thing is, of course, the dung beetles, which have started to increase in number and increase in their tempo, at least anyway. And we're starting to see a lot of those big plum-colored dung beetles. And right here at the base of my finger, we've got a plum-colored dung beetle which has, or in the process of burying his dung, which you don't often see. We quite often see dung beetles rolling their balls and dung beetles making their balls, but so often we don't see how they bury their balls. So this dung beetle, plum-colored dung beetle, is now underneath that ball, and he's softening up the soil underneath the ball itself and basically drawing it in right from the bottom. Isn't that amazing? So there's a dung beetle underneath there. Inside this ball, that dung beetle will lay an egg, and that dung ball will then be buried. Now, Virginia, all the way from Kentucky, you've asked me if these dung beetles you only use herbivore dung or if they will use carnivore dung. Virginia, it depends on the dung beetle, to be honest. You do get dung beetles that specialize in the dung of carnivores. These particular plum-colored dung beetles, and I'll show you an example of one in a second, these particular dung beetles, they only utilize herbivore dung. So you only find them on herbivore dung. We don't find them on carnivore dung. And the dung beetles that specialize in carnivore dung, I'll be honest with you, I don't touch with my hands. Like, I know touching something that makes a living eating dung and burying it like this, you shouldn't touch anyway, but they smell like you don't even believe. They will leave a taint on your hands that not even gasoline will get off. So I try not to touch them too much. Now, while we're busy watching this, this insect or this dung beetle bury this ball, I also just want to say thank you to Siberia Zumi, who a little bit earlier on sent through some information regarding insects growing their limbs back. And that, Siberia, you believe that scorpions can actually regenerate limbs, particularly their pincers or their appendages in the front of their body. So that's interesting. I've never heard of that myself before. It's quite possible. I mean, there may be some feasibility in that. I'll keep an eye out and see if we find any one-clawed scorpions. I think that'll answer it. If there's no one-clawed scorpions around, then the answer to that question probably is feasible yes. Now have a look how quickly this is gone. It's disappeared. BYRON, you, all the way from Texas, you've also sent through an answer about the regeneration of insect limbs. You said the giant mantis can also regenerate limbs. That's interesting, Karen. I mean, a mantis being able to regenerate a limb. I've seen lots of mantises missing limbs before. I've never seen a mantis missing one of its pincer limbs before, but definitely legs. And you're saying that you have some information about them regenerating their limbs. So, you know, awesome. I think that's incredible. I haven't seen it myself out here, but you know, there's so much that we don't know about the insect kingdom. There's so much that people observe and that we see on shows like this, and that is not documented in books. So quite possible, you know. And I just have to say thank you very much for sending through all these bits and pieces of information. If you want, you can email them through to questions@WildEarth.tv, where you got your resources from. I'd love to read through that when we get back home and to breakfast this morning. Now, this dung beetle has all but disappeared, or this dung beetle definitely had disappeared, but the dung ball is all but disappeared. It'll carry on going a little bit deeper, probably about a hand span into the ground, maybe as much as 2 hand spans into the ground, and then she'll lay her egg on that dung ball, climb out and carry on with her day. But that effectively has ended this particular, us seeing this particular dung ball. I want to show you what a plum colored dung beetle actually looks like, and for that we're actually going to go back to the dung pile that ball came from. Now where you're standing now is where that dung beetle rolled that dung ball from. It's probably about 5 yards away. They're called telecoprids because they roll it away. But come and have a look over here. This is the last little bit of dung is being fought over by these 2 dung beetles. That is a plum colored dung beetle. You can see that it's got the coloration of a ripe plum, frantically moving from dung pile to dung pile. It's quite a large one. That's about as big as they get. Oh, another one there. What's happening? Go back to the original pile. Not too much dung. I think he's busy looking for more. You can see how they're using those paddles to pat that dung down. Every now and again, looking up to orientate themselves on the sun. That noise you heard was one of them taking off. They're like little mini helicopters here. And there you can have a look at those flies. I don't know if you saw that fly that just popped in there. So what those flies do is literally hang around these dung beetles and get taken from dung pile to dung pile with these dung beetles. Now where are you going, buddy? You've now left your dung. I think it's looking for more. Here he comes back into your shot again. Here with his spade out, antennae out. I wonder what he's doing. There's just a frenzy, don't you think? Looks like he's going to take off actually. No, coming back. He's found a little bit more. No, not satisfactory. Racing back to his original pile. Where are you going there, big guy? There we go. You can have a look. That's my thumbnail next to him over there. You can see that he's quite a sizable dung beetle. You don't want to drive into this thing flying into your head if you're driving around. Just have a look at that. Patting the dung into a ball. I don't think there's enough dung here to actually make a ball big enough for this one's satisfaction. Hence this sort of frenzy. Let's see if I put his original ball close to him, if he'll utilize it. There he goes. Let's see. There we go. Now, Laura, you've asked me how do they get the dung or the egg inside the ball if they've already rolled it. Laura, they've got an ovipositor, although it's quite small, and I'm under the impression that they don't necessarily lay their egg in the center of the dung ball. I've got a feeling they lay it just on the outside of the dung ball, and when it hatches, the larvae digs to the middle of the dung ball and starts to eat the dung out from the center. So it's not necessarily that the egg is in the center. I think the egg is just on the outside, or maybe just below the surface of the dung. The larvae then crawls into the middle of the dung and starts to feed. Now that's quite interesting. I gave this dung beetle the original dung ball that he was working on. I gave him that one, and he's now almost totally incorporated that dung ball into this one. Isn't that incredible? Let's see if we give him a bit more. And give him a little bit more. He must think it's Christmas. We're gonna stay with this guy and see when he stops accepting dung from us, and see how big we can actually get this dung ball. Maybe if we start ferrying in dung from all over the place, we can get him to build a soccer ball for us. In the meantime, we're gonna send you over to TAYLA. He's got an update for you on something.
So we're in a little quarry at the moment, and we've got a couple of warthogs who are actually very relaxed with us, which is a surprise and quite refreshing to see at the moment. And I think they've actually chosen a very, very good spot in here. You can see all the lovely green grass that I think all the other animals have missed. So well done, little warthogs, on finding a buffet for yourselves. Now, I'm sure you were hoping to see Tingana back on screen, but unfortunately, he doesn't want to be seen today. I think he's quite full and quite tired of the vehicle, so he's gone and laid in the middle of a drainage line, which none of us can get view of him, so we'll just leave him until perhaps he decides to come out again. There the piggies go. But isn't that lovely that they're not running away for us, and we're having a spectacular sighting of them. And you can see that all the females are very fat at the moment. Those bellies are starting to get quite round, and that's exciting because we know that that means they're going to be little piglets soon running around. And hopefully we'll see lots of piglets. But I reckon it's normally towards the end of October, beginning of November, that we start to see the piglets. They're usually the first ones to have babies of the season, other than the birds. So that'll be quite exciting to watch and wait, and off they go, casually strolling away. Now I think what we're going to do now is we're going to try and find a spot and see if we can get hold of Arathusa and see what's happening on that side. Here we go. Let's get out of this quarry though very quickly. And we'll go back onto the main road. And just reverse out of here. Right, it's such a nice day today. I'm really hoping though, with all this humidity coming through, it's going to get some rain. Wyatt, you're wanting to know this morning if there are any other protected areas other than, of course, the Great Kruger area, the most famous of them all. We're quite lucky. There are actually quite a few of them scattered around, all over South Africa, quite a few national parks. One from where I'm from actually, called the Addo Elephant National Park, which is down on the southeast coast of South Africa. That's quite a big place. And of course, not only do you have these national parks, but it's now become a big trend in South Africa, especially where there are areas that were heavily farmed. So for instance, I can use the Eastern Cape, so Port Elizabeth, around those areas, and those types of areas which were heavily farmed by the settlers. They used to grow pineapples and chicory and all that thing, so you can imagine they sort of cleared all the natural vegetation and destroyed the land. So what's happening down there, and I think it's a great movement, is the people that were once farming are now selling off all their crops, and they're actually trying to restore the land, letting the land sort of sit for 5 or 7 years or so, let that natural vegetation pop up, and then they're introducing the indigenous animals that were once in that area and turning it into game reserves, really private, smaller game reserves. So I think that's an amazing initiative that everybody is doing, rather going back that way. So there's plenty of them all over not just in, of course, South Africa, but all over the continent, in fact. I'll have a look at a couple impala, try not to scare them with my brakes. There they go. A little hop, skip and a jump over that little log there. Hello, mister. Now we're seeing a lot of these youngsters. There we go. I was just about to say that these youngsters have been sparring at the moment, but we don't often get to see them. No, don't go behind the termite mound. There we go. They're pushing and shoving each other. And of course, this is nothing serious. This is them just practicing, almost like how we see the lion cubs playing. these gentlemen over here, they need to practice for one day when they're really going to fight for the rights to get into the breeding herds. Isn't that lovely? All of them wagging their tails, the little flies must be out. But let's see if we can get hold of Arathusa. And while I try and do that, let's go back to BYRON with those lions.
So they've just gone and laid down and they're resting a little bit. It's starting to warm up, even though it's still very cloudy. The temperature has increased a bit and it is warming up nicely. I think because there's no sun, they're still out in the open, which is great. But they are resting. They've probably been moving around a lot during the evening. And so it's great to be able to sit with them. Such an exciting moment earlier with these lions, the lioness almost catching that little Inyala, that young Inyala. Very, very close. But I think it really caught her by surprise. Brian and I were actually discussing it afterwards, and I think what happened was that lioness was so focused on the adult Inyala that she didn't see the little baby Inyala come through the thicket just next to her, and that little one ran for its life and luckily made it away. Look at the large paws of that male, even just cleaning them, but they are massive. Dustin has asked a question: would the lionesses whip their tails around if they wanted to mate? So, Dustin, usually what happens is, I have seen lionesses present themselves at times to males. They'll go and rub up against the males and lie in front of them. They do move their tails slightly, but I don't think it's a signal to say, let's mate. I think it's more a case of them getting up and active, and then they walk and present themselves a little bit to the male. And then the male will mate with them. But I don't think it's a sign that they actually flick their tails to instigate mating. They do move their tails around though. Usually the tails, one of the main communications that we receive from lions via their tail is when they are aggressive. The tails are flicked from side to side very, very quickly, and that shows that they are aggressive and we shouldn't approach any closer. With the mating though, I haven't seen a lioness just sit up, flick her tail around, and the male then get up and mate. But she will present herself and go and rub up against him or walk in front of him and lay down right in front of the male. And that's usually a sign that she wants to mate. So Jerry in Canada has asked us a question about the lions, and with that male getting up and following that lioness the whole time. Jerry would like to know, is it protective or possessive? So Jerry, it's a bit of both almost, because the male is protecting the female because he is interested in mating with her, but it's also possessive because he doesn't want other lions or other males coming in and trying to mate with her while he is around. So when lions are mating like this, they'll stay together. Well, I say like this, we haven't seen them mate yet, but usually when males and females are, if they're together like this, chances are they're either in the beginning stages of mating, or the male is trying to see if the female is receptive to mate with. So, Jerry, what will happen is the males will, or the male that pairs with this female will stay very close to her. He won't let her out of his sight because he doesn't want other males, even though it's his own brothers, he doesn't want them coming in and mating with her. So, it's very interesting behavior, but they stay with them. And when they do start mating, they'll mate for anywhere between 3 3 days and about a week, 3 to 5 days usually. And in the beginning they mate very frequently, and then as the days go on, the period between each mating session becomes a lot longer, until eventually the lioness will return to the pride and the male will carry on doing his own thing, patrolling his territory, possibly meeting up with his brothers or even females from other prides. There's a woodpecker knocking in the distance. I wonder if you can hear it. It's a bearded woodpecker, and does that, and that's its territorial call. Yeah, knock, 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 tuk, 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 tuk. And it does that to alert other woodpeckers, other bearded woodpeckers, that this is its territory. It's a wonderful sound. We're going to sit with these lions a little bit longer. While I do that, let's see what Stef has got in his walk.
Not up to much. We've been sticking around this dung pile that we were with a little bit earlier. For those of you just joining the bushwalk part of today's walk or today's safari, we have been spending time with some multitude of insects that have emerged after the recent rains, and this little bit of sand is all that is left of that dung pile, or that dung ball that that dung beetle was rolling. Rolled it not too far away from here, has now buried it literally in the time since you left us to right now. This little patch of sand is where that dung ball is, and I'm going to see if I can uncover where it actually, how deep it actually is for you. There is the dung ball there. And I've had an epiphany while I've been waiting here for you. I think the lack of male around here is what has made me think this. I don't think that these are brood balls at all, or balls that are meant to have an egg on them. I think they're too small. Also, later on in the season, you get dung beetles that'll build a big one. The female sits on top of the dung, male comes in, they roll off the ball together. I think what this is a feeding ball. So I think what these dung beetles do is they roll a ball of dung as quickly as they can, and that's why we saw that frantic behavior. They then roll the dung ball away and bury it quite shallowly. That is the dung ball there. I'm going to scratch it open with a stick so that you can see that it is actually a piece of dung and not... There's the ball there, there's the dung. And then I think what happened, there's the ball, and the dung beetle should be there. There's the dung beetle. Let's put her dung ball back. And I think what happens is she then buries it, and then they eat it underneath the ground. So burying it gets it away from, and they stop being harassed that way. And they can then eat at leisure, and that would, for me, describe the fact of why it's so small, why they're so frantic, why they don't walk far away from the dung, why they bury it so quickly, and then they don't bury it very deeply, they just bury it quite shallowly. So I think we figured it out. And then there's also a pill millipede here that I saw when we were busy digging it out there. So there's the first of the season that we're seeing, a pill millipede. Curled up now and made to look like a dung ball. Very solid shape in actual fact. And that in fact is a millipede. Isn't that incredible? Let's put it back here where I found it. Here the dung beetle is coming out. Look here, emerging. And of course, just to throw my theory straight out of the window, let's see, what are you going to do? Oh no, still burying the dung ball there. You can see it's moving now a little bit over there. I just find all these things absolutely fascinating, you know. There's so much going on here that we don't really understand. We can guess at. I'm sure there's, you know, there's many scientific papers floating around that could explain exactly what's going on, but of course all for us to discover here and discuss with you in person. Wow, that's been an interesting dung pile. Let me show you exactly what is left of that dung pile. Virtually nothing. This is all that's left of that dung pile we were with a little bit earlier, and no dung beetles are even flying in anymore. So the particles wafting downwind of this particular dung pile have gotten to a number that isn't interesting for these dung beetles anymore, and that probably gives us a good cue to move on and see what other thing we can find in this area. Wow, it's been an epic day today, I must be honest with you. A little bit of everything today while we're at it. And this in an area which for the last couple of months, and I'm talking about probably, since Father's Day, since a month before Father's Day or so, has been devoid of much. Been overgrazed, it's been utilized by lots of different animals as a traverse, but nothing. Oh, there's one thing that I did want to show you. Let us go this way. While we were waiting for you to come back to the dung pile, we heard some birds making a funny noise here. And I think what we've got is a fork-tailed drongo or a white-crowned shrike. I'm not too sure which one yet.